doesn't work. You don't go back and forth. That would be horrible. Okay, so now that I've spread out that, it's time to do drawing again. And I'm probably standing right in your way. I am. Let me move you a little bit. And I'm trying to look. The challenge here is, well, the what's the word? If you're not thinking, you'll simply redraw. I will simply redraw this on top of what's already there. Well, that would be dumb. Because my first marks were just my first rough guess. So now I'm looking right now for two things. Similitude. I look at my photograph over there saying, am I capturing the essence of that subject matter? That's one. Of course, perspective is huge. That has to be correct. But the other is composition. And I'm saying, no, I am going to make several changes. So, okay, can I stop for a moment and point out here? So, I'm assuming you can see that, right? This is my new angle of my new roof. Do you see how I made that mark? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 strokes to make one stroke. That's a good example. I didn't do it on purpose. That's just a habit. I do that all the time. The habit is on purpose. That is, make your marks interesting. And since human beings cannot draw straight lines, the only kind of line you can draw is a crooked one. But you have the option of either drawing, see now that line right there, I agree with. This mark right here, I do not agree with. So the only kind of mark human beings can make are crooked ones. But you have the option. You can make either attractive crooked lines or ugly crooked lines. You've heard this before if you're a regular follower here, and here I am saying it again. You can make two kinds of crooked lines, ugly ones or attractive ones. Are you with me? Here's the recipe. The easiest way to describe this is, how do you draw ugly crooked lines? Because crooked's the only option open to you. Are you with me? Human beings, if you're alive, you cannot draw a straight line because you're alive and you have a pulse, and your pulse makes your muscles twitch and quiver. But here's the easiest way to describe it. How do you make ugly crooked lines? Crooked's the only option open to you. The answer is, try to draw straight ones. In the act of trying to draw straight lines, you will in fact draw ugly, or as I usually say, hugly. That means really ugly. In the act of trying to draw straight lines, you will draw hugly. Crooked lines. So you don't want ugly crooked lines, you want beautiful crooked lines. That means you draw them crooked on purpose. Man, there's so much detail. I'll be, again, for those of you who may be just joining me, here's my reference. And there's a rope hanging down right there. And it looks like it's part of the, connected to the boat. So I'll actually, all kinds of stuff in there, including the back end of a different boat. Another boat is in the shed, in the barn, whatever they call that. Dry dock. Okay, so again, just in case I have any newbies following me, thank you for joining me today, and I hope that you'll hit subscribe, and I hope that you'll hit like. Doing too much drawing with my right hand, so let's hold the paper in my hand. Why am I drawing with pencils? Yes, you are right in thinking that's weird. You don't draw with pencils on an oil painting? Correct. If you're a traditional oil painter, you most certainly do not draw with pencils. Well, if you're a traditional old-timey oil painter, you start your painting by doing a light charcoal sketch underneath, vine charcoal usually, even. But that is not this. That is not what I'm doing here. When a traditional, again, forgive me, you guys who are regulars, you've heard this so many times. Forgive me for repeating. If you're a traditional oldie, like my dad, 60 or 50 years ago when he painted oil paintings, he often did, because everybody did, you did a little quick charcoal sketch underneath to get your drawing down. When you did that, when those artists did that, when my dad did that, those charcoal marks, no way were they expected, or did you want those to be visible in the final painting? Are you with me? They were preliminary. They were truly underwear to the painting. You did not want those marks showing. That is not this. That is not what I'm doing. I absolutely, yes, do want these marks showing. This is, again, yes, this is very unconventional to use pencils. And I do this all the time. They're made by Jerry's Artorama. Can you see that? And they're called Jumbo Jet Black by Jerry's Artorama. I can describe them for you. They are not as greasy as a grease pencil, but they're more greasy than a Conti crayon. And when I say grease, wax would be a better term. So, let me back. Why am I drawing with pencils? Well, right now, it's pretty obvious, yes, that I'm using the pencils, in fact, to achieve similitude. I am using pencils to draw with, to draw, to render, to achieve realism. There's no question. That is a huge part of why I'm using them at this moment. But, big but coming up. Can you hear that? But that is in fact a secondary reason. I'm mostly using pencils because I simply like the way they look. I like the scratchy, outliney, even black. By the way, I've tried other colors, and I would use other colors, but none of the other colors, they do brown, 2 shades of brown, white, and black, and I've tried those. And none of them draw the way the blacks do. So the browns are too hard. They don't behave in the right way. So I don't use the brown pencils. I've even experimented with the white, and again, they don't behave the way that I want. So the real reason I'm using pencils, of course, they help with capturing the drawing. They do help. But the real reason I'm using them, the bigger reason, is because I like the way the scratchy pencil, I like the way it looks next to, right up against, mixed in with smooshy paintbrush marks. You let me call paint smooshy, right? These are smooshy marks. These are scratchy marks. And I like the juxtaposition of smooshy with scratchy. I am not averse to inventing my own words whenever necessary. If you follow me for any length of time, you'll discover that is the case often. If there's not a word for it, I'll make it up. Smooshy versus scratchy. And I bet you can even tell what I mean by that. I don't even have to define it. Smooshy versus scratchy. Now, you're welcome to, give it a whirl, try, give it a go. 591-981. I don't have to put the right number up here, of course, but at the moment I'm going to start with that. The downside, the danger of doing especially any kind of lines, but especially pencil lines. And I say this in all my classes, and yet I find my students still doing it. So listen to me carefully. And that doesn't just pertain to pencil lines, but it's most exacerbated with pencil lines. The greatest danger about putting lines on your canvas is that as soon as you put lines there, you are going to be gravely tempted. Did I say that strongly enough? No, I didn't. You are going to be gravely tempted. Did I say that strongly enough? Yes, I did, but are you paying any attention? You're going to be gravely tempted to, quote unquote, color in the lines. As soon as you have lines here, here's the next tendency. 99% of all art students, then the next thing they'll be doing is grabbing a small brush like this, control freak grip, sticking their tongue out, and start painting in the lines. Okay, so you can tell by the way I'm mocking the heck out of that impulse that is absolutely not what I'm going to do. Okay, so I've got myself pretty well trained not to do that. The rest of you, it would be a training process. You would in fact have to beat yourself, so to speak. I don't mean beat yourself up, by the way. No, you never beat yourself up. But you do beat yourself. For those of you perhaps coming from the Christian tradition, the word that the phrase that's coming to my mind is the Apostle Paul in one of his letters. I don't remember which one right now. He uses the term, he says, "Therefore I beat my body and make it my slave, lest after I've done all this preaching to everybody else, I myself would be a loser." So I'll paraphrase close enough. That kind of, do we beat ourselves? Yes, we that's called discipline. Do we discipline ourselves? All good, healthy human beings discipline themselves. All unhealthy, so let me put it this way, all healthy human beings beat themselves into discipline. Unhealthy human beings beat themselves up. And there's a huge difference. Beating yourself up is never the right solution. Never, 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 never. Yes, I'm going to say it one more time. Never. And I know students, because I work with them all the time. Left to their own devices, students will beat themselves up mercilessly and repeatedly. "Oh, I don't know. I'm just not very good. I just have a hard time. I didn't do that very well." Again, forgive me my mocking tone, but I'm trying to help some of you stop that stuff. Yes, sirree, ladies and gentlemen, tune in to Dan Nelson Daily Art Adventures for your mental health. Free psychological counseling, no charge whatsoever. Now, I already can see that I'm like messing up a whole bunch of things on this boat. That is to say, I'm like, this little hole is supposed to be about over here. This number is supposed to be over here. Those are mistakes that don't matter. That do matter are errors of perspective, getting the perspective wrong. And if there's human beings, you don't have the same freedom with human beings. That does have to be correct. But now there are ways, of course, for getting drawings like this more accurate, right? But they all involve much more time. So yes, if this was a 3 or 4 day painting, or if I was a real serious fine artist, this would be a 7-week painting. I mock, I jest, I ridicule. That is a snobby statement. Then I could get stuff like that right. But it's completely unnecessary. The only person who would know that some of these things, like, wait a minute, that's too far, that way or that way or that way, would in fact be a professional shipbuilder or fisherman. The likelihood of anybody of that looking at this is very minimal. So, yeah, I'm not going to add 17 hours to this painting just to get stuff correct that frankly doesn't matter if it's correct. So again, I'm just trying to help you what matters and what doesn't. What does matter is perspective and human figures. If you have human people, you have to get those right. Animals too. Trees need to look tree-ish. In order to know what trees look like, you need to draw or paint a lot of trees. But generally speaking, no. Those kind of things those kinds of little details do not matter. So I'm not gonna sweat the small stuff, I guess is one way to put that. Some details matter and some don't. And the ones that I've just gotten wrong are pretty much ones that don't. Okay, you know that. You know that. I hardly needed to say all that. Reflection in the water. Pretty important, quite important in this painting, as a matter of fact. This is all water down here, but it would be a huge mistake for this to be all the same color down here. Why? The category is boundary ratios. Boundary ratios. You do not want a boundary. You don't want an edge of your painting that's all one color. In a landscape, the easiest mistake, no problem here. In a landscape, this is if you have sky all the way across. Bad decision. You need. We don't like seeing that. We don't like seeing an unbroken boundary. So in this painting, the danger would be this is all water from here to here, but I'm going to make sure that I have reflections, strong color breaks. Everything else is quite well taken care of. Okay, now just a little bit more drawing. Again, this whole place is just a quagmire of twisted, rusty metal, and wood, and plastic, who knows what. Mostly metal and wood. Okay, that was a lot of drawing and a lot of talking, a lot of jabbering. I'm going to take a break again right here. It gives me a chance to step back from my painting a little bit. When I come back, I'm going to do back to big brushes, color.